Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Philippe, and I'm with a company called Higher Education Marketing. And today I'm going to try to demystify social media and provide a context and a framework that you can use in your own organizations to think of social media in a more strategic way. So some basics. It's really key when you do marketing that you know who you're speaking to, who you're trying to attract and engage with. So defining personas is one of the first steps to go about social. A persona is a fancy word for target market. Then we're going to talk about creating content. We're going to touch a little bit on Chinese social media and some of the basics and the requirements to get up and running. Some multilingual stuff, measuring. So we have a full, I think I got about 80 slides. So I'll go at a certain good tempo, but I would encourage you to stop me and ask a question while you see a slide that's relevant, instead of just holding back until the end, and then you might forget. So just interrupt me, I'm here to help, welcome, and provide you as best possible the answer to your difficult questions. So some of the benefits. Now, one concept is that you want to, yes, engage people on the native social platform or platforms, but when possible, you want to drive some of these users back to your website. So that's one of the key benefits of social. You want to build trust. You want to nurture online communities. It complements other online channels. You've got to think in a holistic way in your digital marketing. You've got your organic search, you've got email, paid advertising, paid search, paid social, social media. Those are all different channels, and social plays its role into that ecosystem. So you've got to think of it in that context. And yes, encourage meaningful engagement, and then you can generate some conversions or some inquiries from social. So these are some of the benefits of social media. Now, in terms of penetration related to the people, you've got different percentages by regions, which tries to highlight the popularity of social media in general in that market. I'm quite sure that IALC will share all these wonderful slides with you. So, and then they're linked to the actual resource that we provided, so you can go and click on it and get the full story. Now here, 1 in 3 students have used social media to research. In this case, it's a college or university, but still an educational institution. So when you're creating social content and you're doing social media, you've got to think of it as a supporting channel to enrollment. Because a lot of these potential students or customers of yours are going to check you out and decide whether or not you fit their requirements. So the core elements to the strategy: presence on the right channels, better to do less, but do well than do lots and do poorly. So choose, pick your battles. The posting schedule, there needs to be a certain frequency, a mix of content, consistent branding. This is important. Social gives you the ability to brand your institutions or your companies, because social content is visual content. It can also be video content, so you have an element of visual and branding. The integration across channels on the website, having links from one to another, making sure that your about profiles on your Instagram and your Facebook actually say the same things as your website about. Basic things, but we all get busy in our lives and we have all of these things to maintain. So maybe have a schedule once in a while where you just check everything thoroughly. And then the paid advertising side is a core component of social media. Okay, now we dive into the target audiences, the personas. So these are some of the components, these circles around are some of the components that are useful to define in terms of when you go about defining your personas. So what are their interests? What are their backgrounds, their motivations, their pain points, their concerns, their challenges? And what are their search behaviors? So what keywords would we use, or would they use rather, to look for what you have to offer? This becomes a persona. And then when you do social media or other digital channels and you execute, you're aiming this profile, this individual. You might have a few personas in your organizations, depending on whether you're offering adult courses or junior courses, and you guys know what you offer, and you're not talking to the same person. So you should build these personas and over time refine them. Start and build some steam and some speed. How do you build personas? We're giving you some ideas as to how. You can survey students, you can survey alumni, you can talk to your faculty, you can talk to your teachers. You have a lot of marketing intelligence in the analytics that you've got. So you want to collect this information and start building these personas. Out of curiosity, how many of you have defined personas for your companies? Oh la la, okay. And how many of you do marketing? I hope all of you do. Okay, so there's a bit of imbalance here. So if you're going to do marketing, because you might know who your audience is, but you're not doing all the marketing, you're delegating it to someone else. Well, this becomes a resource for them. They have a sheet, they have a little binder. These are our target markets. When you do your content, these are the keywords you should use. These are the key messages you should use. So it becomes a resource for your team members to execute. And if there's people change, they move on, you don't lose this asset. So it's very important to put it on paper. Okay, so we want to give you an example. Now, it's hard to fit the persona in one screen, so I kind of broke it up in pieces for you. So there may be a male or female. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, sometimes it's both. The age, where they're from, what is their level. This change, it's an example. Then there are some motivations. Why are they looking, why would your potential student or your typical student for this persona would want to buy this course? So you link the two together. Then it's very important to also define the concerns that they would have, because those are the objections that you're trying to overcome. So it's important to know what these objections are. And these motivations and these concerns then drive all of your content marketing efforts, in this case on social media. Once you've got the background, the motivations, their concerns, then you craft these key messages. Now, these are long-form messages because they could be suitable for blog writing, for on-page SEO, for email marketing messages, but also for social media. And then, depending on the medium that you're deploying your efforts on, you adapt the messages, which are there to tickle their motivations and overcome their concerns. This is the objective of these messages. So now we have a game plan. We know who we're trying to reach in a very structured way. And this is an example of their motivation and how the content is linked. I know it's a bit hard to read, but we're linking the actual motivations to the actual post on this case on Facebook. We're linking the two directly. So this content is aimed at this motivation, and we track that. Okay, so some tactics. Choosing the right platform, the time of day, maybe some multilingual content, possibly, and a mix of types of content. So here is another graph in terms of the network and its popularity. So if you're seeing, in this case, Facebook, that indicates that in those markets, it's the first one in that market. It doesn't imply that others are not popular, but it just gives you an idea. And then Qzone, that's all of your Tencent stuff in China. And Facebook reach by country. So we just curated the top 5 by percentage. We all know Facebook is important, also Instagram. Here's the Instagram penetration by country. And also we've curated the top 5. Stories. There's always something new. Well, stories are really, really up and coming. And the quote from Facebook's chief product officer says that it'll surpass the feeds as the primary. So this is very important because not many schools or companies are using stories. Some are, but there's a bit of catch-up to do to use stories. So it's really, and a story is just another format for the content. Now, this is a tool, in this case it's HubSpot, it could be Hootsuite. Well, if you want to schedule your posts, you can schedule posts natively in the platform, because ultimately the idea here is to publish the content at the right time, on the right day, based on maybe it's an international audience, maybe it's a domestic audience. You can see what day, when these audiences are most engaging with you. So you want to line up your posting as optimally as possible in terms of catching their attention. And then you can have posts in different languages. In this case, we have an English post and a Spanish post. So you got to think about that. Obviously, there are other implications about multilingual content. It implies that you have to have people to respond in those languages. So it's not a simplistic say you should do this. But the idea is to make you understand that if you've got your personas defined, you know that they're there, well, speak to them in that way if that's who you want to reach. Or another example, you can have the English or English-Portuguese version in the same post, or another language for that matter. And then you can have that as a means to interact with people in many languages depending on their level and their comprehension of the English language. If your audience, if your persona is not very fluent in English, use visuals. Keep it simple for them. Don't try to make it complicated. Keep the message simple. Use visuals to support the message. These are basic things, but when we get busy and we have to post all this stuff, we may not think of these concepts. So, okay. We want to give you a bit of ground rule in terms of China. So, how many of you recruit students from China? Okay. So, in China, the best way to provide an image, if you wanted to start being active online in China, think of it as starting a brand new school that has nothing. You don't have a website, you don't have a Facebook page, you don't have anything. Well, that's what you'll have to overcome if you want to do digital marketing in China. So first of all, your English website, your French website, your Spanish site, even if you have Chinese pages on your site that's hosted here in Europe or North America, will get very little visibility, organic visibility, in China. So it's good to have Chinese content. Maybe your agents or other people can, if they have your URL, they can go and check it out. That's useful for that purpose. But in the context of finding your persona that doesn't know you, it's useless. So you've got to have websites, or a website that's there with a Chinese domain name, hosted in China, and you have to use Chinese social media. No, WeChat, Weibo, there are many, but these are some of the more popular ones. So WeChat is extremely powerful and very popular. It has a lot of different capabilities. It's a messaging platform. It has e-commerce components. You can also build a microsite interface with different tabs. So WeChat is important. And there are different kinds of WeChat accounts. But to open one and to manage one is a bit of a headache. So if you wanted your own WeChat account and you wanted to be verified, well, then you'd have to have your own Chinese legal entity. there. Or work with an agency that does. But if you work with an agency that does, you're using their license, their business entity. It's not yours. So that's a requirement. If you want to manage the WeChat account, the person managing the account needs to have a WeChat personally linked to a Chinese bank account. So, not easy to do out of the box. So there's two main kinds of accounts, subscriptions and service. In your case, the subscription account is more suitable because of the higher possibility or frequency in publishing. Publishing means just to share stuff and share content, essentially. And then you can have non-verified and verified accounts. And because there's lots of noise, having a verified account implies to the market that this is a legitimate account. So there's a lot more validity and belief that the content coming from a verified account is true. So this is the linking part. So again, you want to engage with WeChat. You want to have this channel. Well, if you want to have a proper channel, a proper WeChat account, you need to have a Chinese business company established in China. Then you can open one. If not, work with an agency that does, and then they can get it set up for you. If you want to have the control on your account, you need a person that has a personal WeChat account. That's easy to do. But then it has to be linked with a Chinese bank account. Well, that's harder to do. And not in Hong Kong or in Taiwan, no, in mainland China. So the barrier to entry is high, but if you start and you build it, then it could be fruitful. But think of it long term. And these tabs are a bit of the microsite I was trying to share with you. You can have in your WeChat account for the school or the company an interface where the people can navigate and get content, a bit like a small website. And you can publish. And then there's Weibo. Weibo is a micro-blogging platform, a bit less restrictive in terms of publishing, but you still need to provide a business entity to open. So clearly, it's a platform that's more in reach. Normally, WeChat, Weibo is an ideal combination with a website that's hosted in China. So some overview and some statistics that Weibo has to offer. So doing digital marketing in China has a high technical barrier of entry because you have all these requirements, but then also financially, it's expensive because you start, think of it, you've got your Facebook pages today, you've got your websites you've had for years, there's traffic coming to them, took years to build that momentum. Well, tomorrow morning you open your Chinese website, it's hosted in mainland China, you have your WeChat, no one knows you. You're starting from scratch. It'll take years to build the momentum, and then you have to create the content, you've got to pay for this, pay for that, so long-term process. So food for thought for those of you that want to do more in China, that's a possibility. Okay. Now, in terms of the strategy of social, the simplest way we thought of laying it out for you is think of the funnel. Think of these stages. So they start at the awareness, and at the end they enroll, and there are some stages of consideration and decision in the middle. So what we want to promote here is the idea that you should create content for your personas aimed at all of these various stages in the buyer's journey. And organize your content calendar in such a way that you know that this particular piece going out today is aimed at that stage and this stage, so that you have a framework, and then when you go to measure, you have an understanding and a detailed game plan of what you're measuring. So let's start with the awareness. So here are some ideas of types of content that you could deploy for the awareness stage. So website content that drive your prospects to your site. So pages on your website that you're sharing towards or to social. So if they click, they can come back to your site. That's what we're saying here. Showcase your location, highlight attractions, and then hashtags and stories. So we're really, we're starting slow. We're just laying down the foundation because this is for people that are just wanting to be aware with your company. And here are some examples. So we're sharing content from the website, in this case, to Facebook and Twitter. So we're really sharing, and the action of sharing content from your site to social supports also organic search visibility because your domain, your website, your domain, schoolname.com, is receiving social signals from, in this case, Facebook and Twitter. And then highlight what your city has to offer. Photos from trips and activities. And all of you have lots of these things. So this part should be easy to do. Use hashtags. And then use stories. And then engage them through the story. So we're just setting the stage, providing information about your location. And now we're creating content. They're in the market, right? They're considering you, maybe they're considering someone else. So this is why we're creating content to prepare them for your location to come study or to travel. We're offering online tours so they can see under the hood in the school. Use Facebook Live or all of these streaming platforms to do Q&A. You're trying to convince them that you're the right fit for them. So you're really opening a lens in your organization. And direct messaging, so Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. Now we're in the selling mode, right? We're really trying to talk with them. So tips, a tour of your location. These are just examples. We've curated them from what we saw online that was relevant. This case, there was a Facebook Live where people were actually engaging. And the Facebook Live could be shared and boosted after it happened. So that's a great asset of content that you can reuse and reuse and reuse. And then we wanted to provide some statistics in terms of the popularity of instant messaging platforms by country. So Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp are the main two. There are others, but at some point you have to choose your battle. You can't do everything. So, and depending on the markets you're after, well, you can see what's more relevant for you. And then tell your audience where they can find you, so that you can get some people contacting you, and then you can obviously outreach to them. Encourage them through calls to action, but make sure that you're actually manning these channels. You're manning your WeChat, you're manning your Facebook Messenger, you're responding to them in a prompt manner. Prepare some templates perhaps for your colleagues if you're training them in terms of what to say. Provide resources. Because not everyone in your organization is as savvy as you about these technologies or as savvy as you about your products and services and your courses. So template it out, provide some training, provide some resources. Okay, now we're trying to close the deal. They're deciding. Social proof. This is one of the most obvious use of social media in a commercial context. They want to see others like them experiencing your schools or your services. This is very important. Reviews. Encourage them to leave reviews. This case on Facebook, but also could be Google My Business. Encourage them. And then content that leads to booking, because you're at the end of the journey. So you see, between the first two stages, this is different. We're really providing an éventail, really a diverse type of content through the funnel into where they are. And here are some examples. So social proof, here, a bit of a testimony. A review, and then the school responds. Whether it's good or bad, you have to respond. It's important. Because others will read it, and they'll decide whether you're a good fit for them. Here, remind prospects about upcoming start dates or booking dates. So in your content, these are simple things, but have the right calls to action, have the right message, create a sense of urgency in your content. And then when they're enrolled, you're providing to your current students, the ones that are there, information about your city. You're featuring your students in the post, which is also another form of social proof. And then you're encouraging them to share their own photos through contests. So here's some content, 27 cool things to do in the city. They're featuring content from other students from other parts of the world that are part of their target personas. They're encouraging pictures through Instagram, through a contest. So, you see, social media is such a wide area, you have to have a game plan. And again, the simplest way we found to communicate that game plan is to break it up in these stages. Obviously, some stages, it's never a square box. Things become fluid. But if you start doing it that way, you'll see what works, you'll see what doesn't work. You can start measuring, we'll talk about it afterwards. And you can also lead your team that does this for you in a very structured way. Okay. I'm surprised there haven't been any questions. Am I that clear? Wow. Yes. Okay. Yes.
We often want to focus on extension sales in the school.
Extension
sales, because a lot of our students in a smaller city that has local agencies like Victoria, we find that the students end up shopping around. So we do a lot of work in-house, face-to-face with the students, but do you have some strategies for attacking that, and would it be the same or different? Like, are we taking those students back to the awareness, consideration, decision phase, or would there be something else that we'd want to put in their faces to keep them with us?
So these are students that they're already customers, and you want them to buy more?
That's right.
Okay, good. Well,
we think they want to buy more, we want them to buy more.
Absolutely, yes. Well, you've got to think of it, your commercial strategy is a multi-channel strategy, right? You've got the face-to-face during your school, so that's a channel. Social, you've got email. So, depending on what you want them to buy, it might be extension courses, it might be other activities. First of all, making the information available. It sounds basic, but that's key, right? It could be as simple as a poster in your cafeteria, so they see it. Or it could be in a section of your website. And then if you've got the content there, you can share the content on social, but you can also use email. Email is a very powerful channel. Yes, they don't read email as much as they used to, that's true, but it's still useful. You can use text messaging if they're local and they have a local number, you can use that. You could use WhatsApp, maybe you can have a group. You can share the content there. Maybe it's a question where when they start at the beginning of their process as a student with you, and they're arriving in Victoria, it's their orientation, you can ask them questions. So, what's the best way to share information with you, John? You know, because we'll have different activities that we'll want you to participate in, or maybe there's maybe not in Victoria, but there's a winter storm and you have to close the school. In my city, this happens a lot. In Montreal, you know, there was about this much snow when I left on Sunday. So you ask them what's the way to communicate, and that might give you the answers to your question, right? But clearly, you'll get answers across all of the channels. That's going to happen, so be prepared. If you have an event coming up that you want them to buy, think of the lead time to decide, and then work backwards. And share the content. And maybe it's a question, you know, it sounds simplistic, but if you have a list of your students, and you maybe have your counselors, have them in a gentle way, ask them and speak to them while they're in class. So I hopefully I've answered your question, but it's all of this kind of stuff, you know, that you got to do. It's never one thing that's going to change the world. It's a whole bunch of small things. Okay, social media advertising. Let me see what the time is here. Okay, good. So, when you do social ads, whether it's boosting a post or doing Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising or other forms of, what are the outcomes? Do you want engagement or conversions? So that's number one. What language should you run this thing in is important. Do you have the resources to follow up depending on the languages? What networks should you use and where should you drive people to? So these are some simple questions that you should ask yourselves when you're going to start to put money in Facebook to get more business. So let's look at some numbers. The two tables highlight the same campaigns. In this case, they're done on Facebook. It's the same campaigns. But you'll notice that the metrics are not all the same for both. The top table are the engagement outcomes that were obtained or generated from these campaigns. So people liking, sharing, commenting, those are classified as engagement. In the other case, conversions. People actually converting, which is, in this case, filling out a form. First name, last name, email, phone number, country. There could be, many fields. So we are generating the two types of outcomes from the same campaigns. If you're boosting a post, so you shared something on Facebook, you want people to see it because not many people see it if you don't put money in the machine. Facebook makes sure of that. So it's important to understand what are the outcomes that you want to generate when you are spending money in advertising. So here we had 147 is there, $2.61. We got 10 likes and 91 comments. So these are all the different types of outcomes. When you actually dive deeper in Facebook advertising, there are, I think, over 40 different metrics you can obtain from your various campaigns. So it's very important to understand what are we trying to get. Yes, we want students, sure, but it's never a straight line. So have this in mind when you're spending money. What are we trying to generate? And then, depending on what you want to generate, set it up in the right way. So that's important, number one. So here's an example. We have a Facebook ad, which leads to a landing page. So when we talked earlier about leads in the second table below, 447, well, what we want to say is people filled out that form and became an inquiry. That's, in this case, a conversion. But you still see below, you have almost 2,000 likes, and you have comments, and you have some shares. So you're getting engagement, and you're getting conversions. It's not always this way. You've got to set it up in the way you want so that you get what you want. If you're not getting what you want, there's a problem, then you can tune it. But you have in your mind what the plan is. This is very important. If you're doing conversion stuff and you're using landing pages, which you should, make sure they're responsive. This is simple, but it's often still today not done. 2019. 90% of Facebook activity is done on your phone or on phones of these potential students. Well, these pages have to be responsive. If not, you're just blowing money out the door. Target them effectively. The age, the language, the interest, right? That persona we talked about earlier, it's becoming useful because you did all the research now. I've not picked on you yet, though. That's good. You did all the research, and now you can use it. So it's easy. Now you're prepared. It's plug and play. Now, choose your placement. So the placement is this ad, where do I want it to be visible? And you can choose that. So, first of all, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, and there's Messenger. So when you're doing Facebook advertising, there's 3 networks or 3 platforms. Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger. Then you've got mobile, and you've got desktop, and there's Messenger. And then you have stories, marketplace. There's all of these placements, all these places where you could be advertising. So you can start with them all, or you can pick, and then you can see what performs. So Facebook advertising, I use that because we're talking about social media, and in social media, I mean, LinkedIn doesn't really apply to this audience, neither does Twitter. And the Chinese stuff, well, that's another context, so I've really focused it on Facebook because it was relevant. It is extremely complicated. Obviously, if you have some pictures from a great trip you guys did and you post them on Facebook or Instagram and you want to spend $10 to get more visibility, yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's easy to do. But if you want to drive conversions, you want to have content that's going to be aimed at one of these stages, and you want to measure it with precision, then it becomes more of a ninja trade. So measurement. What kind of ROI? How do you do in terms of driving social traffic to your website? How visible are you? And then how is it performing? Okay, so this, in my crude design skills, I wanted to color code. Yellow is Facebook, teal is Instagram, and purple is Messenger. I took one campaign that's visible and active across all of these placements, and then you can see in the right-hand side how many leads or conversions are coming in. And some are coming from stories, and some are from Facebook, and some are... Messenger hasn't had any in this case. So when we talked about the placement earlier, this is the measurement ability that you have of tracking your campaigns towards all of these various placements. So one Facebook campaign or ad can give you visibility across all of those different placements if you want to. Someone's got to check what's happening, because sometimes you get really good surprises, other cases you get really bad surprises, where one of these placements is eating the bulk of your budget and is generating nothing. So you kill it. Spend the money where it works. And maybe you create other content aimed at that placement. Spend time on your phones looking at the stories and how the ads come on Messenger and on Facebook. Understand the medium that you're spending money on. Very important. So here, different campaigns for different markets. So in Brazil, in France, in Chile, in Italy, locally. And then how many results or leads and what is the cost per lead. So you see, this is the same course being promoted in different markets, in different languages. This is all done in different languages. But the cost per conversion is different. So marketing is not all equal. The cost to market varies in every context. So it's important to measure the outcomes of your campaigns. Obviously, it goes without saying that you've got to set it up right so that the tracking is possible. Because we'll see things, we audit campaigns on a regular basis, and tracking is not there. So they don't know. So you don't have this information. You would know what is your reach, your impressions, but if tracking is not done properly, you don't know how many conversions you had and your cost per conversion. So you're flying blind. Now, this is a Google Analytics report in terms of traffic being generated from these social networks back to your site. And I highlighted in yellow the goal completion column, which are people converting on your website, whether it's a book now or download a brochure, call to action, or contact us, or yes?
Just a question.
Please.
What exactly is meant by conversion?
Yes.
People come to the website or acting on a website, like booking or ordering a catalog.
Okay, so in this case, a conversion would be booking, ordering a catalog. Those would be two types of conversions. Coming to the website is not a conversion. No, that's just traffic. So conversion is someone acting and there's an exchange of information. Obviously, if they're booking, you have who they are, they're paying you. If they're downloading a brochure, maybe they have a form that they fill out before they download a brochure. If they fill out that form, that's a conversion.
Any form on the website.
Simply put, yes. Yes. So in most educational websites, maybe there's a live chat, there's the book now, there's a free quote, there's a download a brochure, download a price list, contact us, ask us a question. You know, those are common conversions that we'd want to track here as goals. You're very welcome. Because your website obviously is where, a lot of this stuff happens. When you build your website and you build your UX for the potential markets and the personas, you've got to know what you want people to do when you're building it. And if you know what you want them to do, you should measure it. And that becomes goals. So here you can track your goals by social network. And you can drill down and you see in Google Analytics, we can track the Facebook advertising. There's different Facebook sources. All the ones that are not yellow are referral-based or organic-based Facebook activity. And you can drill down in the CPC, which is the advertising, and actually have a breakdown per campaign. I'm highlighting them here, I've blurred them out. But you can see, if you have multiple campaigns running on Facebook, which are giving you the bulk of your activity. And you can cross-reference it from your Facebook tracking to your Google Analytics tracking, in this case. The same idea applies to Instagram. You can differentiate your organic Instagram from your paid Instagram activity. And then there's some native reports in Facebook Insights in terms of where they're from and what are their ages and gender. Use that when you're building your personas and use it to see if your campaigns are driving the right people to your pages. So this is post reach on Facebook between paid and organic. Again, if you don't spend money and you're not Harvard, you're not going to get a lot of visibility on your posts if you're not putting money in the machine. Very important. The same stuff is available on Instagram. So you have all of these tools. Facebook Insights, Instagram, Google Analytics, Facebook ads. You've got to spend time to look at it. It's very important. By region, What times are they there? What day are they engaging with? So we talked earlier about sharing and pre-scheduling the content to be published. So we would use this type of information to help us. Their gender. And the last slide, if you have CRM, if you have a CRM system and you're doing Facebook advertising or other advertising to generate conversions, you can actually track how many conversions you've had in this particular case from Facebook. So you can really go full circle and see how many of these Facebook inquiries became students, which is the holy grail of ROI measurement. So in closing, align your social strategy with your personas. So next year when I see you all, I want all of you to tell me that you have personas. Think carefully about your channels, your language, your schedule, content for every stage of the journey. Use paid advertising, and then measure your results. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Yeah, we have about 5 or 10 minutes. Any questions? Oh, we got some mics here. The ladies have the mics. I only take difficult ones. I want to challenge you. Yes, sir.
You talked about engagements in several. You've been talking about engagements in several ways, from email to newsletters to doing photos and sharing and all of that.
We talked about a lot of stuff today. Yes.
Yeah, and at least in Europe we have a major problem, which is the GDPR, and this is one thing. So we can freely take pictures or sending emails or doing all of that.
Well, you have to ask them.
Yeah, you have to ask first, obviously, but this shrinks a lot your audience. Because on my personal experience, I never gave permission to send me offers and stuff, and I think that this is a common experience among us. All of us just delete any kind of newsletter we get involved in and blah, blah, blah. So this is reality.
Well, if I hear what you're saying, my company's going to go out of business.
No.
Okay,
in fact,
good.
my question is actually
Okay.
About how would you try to reduce these kind of obstacles.
Yeah, the key is to, first of all, you have to provide your privacy policy. There's a whole slew of things you've got to do to be GDPR compliant. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you all of the extent of what you got to do, but I think you guys operate your own businesses, so you got to do that. That's important. And it's not because, let's say, you would not engage, not provide your permission, that everyone would not. People do. There are reviews given every day. There are pictures taken at field trips every day, or pictures of classrooms. The ones that don't want to, well, but you see, you take them out. But you see, what happens is that when you start building that culture.
Problem is, when you're doing excursion, I'm doing
Yeah.
it very realistic.
Sure.
When you're doing excursions, you can call. Those should be the permission for the GDPR. This way, we take a picture, the other ones go around. Those kind of things are difficult to manage.
Well, yes, but that's the reality of the operation that you're in. If you want to be really, really, really by the book, then you've got to. Maybe there's other ways of operating. But by the book, or you doctor the pictures when you get them before you publish them. You can mask them, like I've blurred some stuff today, right? You can blur it. Or you can take it down if they complain. But this is the reality, and you have to work within those constraints. So I don't have a magic wand to solve that problem, but because that's one of the rules of the game, you've got to play the game, but not playing the game is worse. So it's a very good point, and I would suggest that you have this conversation when they start, individually, you sign a form, or they sign a form, you make it proper, and then those are the rules, and you tell your staff. So. But these channels work, but you just have to use them. And you got to use them within the rules of the game. Yeah, that'd be my advice there. Yes? Sure. So when you say a site, are you talking about the websites or the
Social
Facebook
media.
pages or social media?
Web pages.
Yeah,
or-
sure. No, I think that, again, I don't think my answer applies to all the cases, because if you're a really big organization, maybe you can afford to maintain many accounts. But in your context, one account would be the answer. And then you post content in more than one language on that account. Yeah. That would be the answer I would take with the information I have today, yeah.
Why would you advise that way? Just out of curiosity.
Well, because it's a question of resources also, and you're offering them English language training, so there should be content in English, and there should be content in other languages because you're reaching people from afar that are looking to consider to maybe come to your school. So that's where you want to blend the two and provide the visibility of this multilingual community, and so that's why I think it makes more sense to have it together. And it's also easier to manage, too. So because you want to use the proof to help sell the ones that are not sold, it makes more sense to have it together. You're welcome. Any more hard questions? No? Yes? No? Oh, we'll be around this weekend if something comes up. You're welcome to ask my colleague Archie, who's there, or myself. We can answer any questions about social media. Well, thank you, and look forward to seeing you at the party later on tonight. Thank you.